Good morning and welcome to the Frog Connected Classrooms Discover Career Series. Do continue discussion of discovering careers by creating and sharing your photos, videos, stories, and even your own interviews on your social media channels using the hashtag FrogCC or hashtag FrogDoctor. To our live viewers, you may submit to us your questions using the Q&A app on the left of your screen, and we shall try to answer your question when time permits. Today with us, we have Dr. Timothy Cheng, who is a doctor stationed in Lahad Datu. Doctor, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Timothy. I work as a medical officer in Hospital Lahad Datu. That is somewhere in the east coast, a small town on the east coast of Sabah. And I'm in the orthopedics department.
Okay, Doctor, you are a medical officer. Can you tell us more about what a medical officer does daily?
Well, okay. As a medical officer, we work Monday to Friday. And I get to work at about 7 a.m. and we work till 5 p.m. When I go to work at about 7, I go to the wards and we do what we call morning rounds. So we go to the patients in the wards and we look at their progress throughout the night. We look at blood investigation results. We review the results. We examine the patients to make sure they're okay. And then we write a plan for surgery, a plan for further blood tests, a plan for discharge to go home, some of them. And that's morning rounds. And after that, we either have OT or clinic. Clinic would mean going to clinics to see outpatients, and OT would mean going to operating theatre to cut people up. But basically for operations to fix things, and I'm in the orthopedics department, so therefore fixing fractures, mainly fixing fractures and stuff. Yeah, so that's the morning, and then we have lunch. If we have time, we have lunch. And then we go back to the wards for afternoon rounds to look back on the patient progress. And by about 5 o'clock, we go home. Now, if we are on call, we then stay from 5 p.m. onwards until the next day, morning 7 a.m. After which we continue for another day of work.
That's very long hours, huh? So your daily schedule includes meronda-ronda the what pesakit and all that lah.
Yep.
Okay, so are there any other roles in the hospital besides a medical officer? Adakah ada peranan-peranan atau jawatan lain dalam hospital selain medical officer?
Actually, not really, because when we go to work, we basically spend most of our time in the wards and in the operating theatre. Yeah, or down in the emergency department if we have cases referred to us. But pretty much that's our roles in the hospital. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Being a doctor is a really demanding job, very long hours, as you have just stated. So can you tell us in 3 words why you love your job? Maybe 3 or 5 words, maybe like what drives you, what your passions are.
Okay. Well, in 5 words. I like my job because I get to fix people.
Okay.
I get to fix people. Oh, 5 words. Okay, so basically, we ask patients what's wrong with them, and we try to fix them. Whether it's a broken bone, whether it's just a fever or lung infection, we try to fix them. And most of the time we get it right. Sometimes we don't, but it's the reward and the fulfillment and the satisfaction of getting it right that keeps you going, I guess. Yeah, it makes it worth it. And yeah, we do have long hours, but there are also times for us to sleep and quick naps here and there when the work is not too busy. And I guess it's part of the fun and part of what the job demands. But really, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. There is time to rest. Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Timothy, how long do you have to study to become a doctor? Berapa tahunkah anda harus belajar untuk menjadi seorang doktor?
Okay, well, you have to finish your primary and secondary school. Sekolah rendah, sekolah menengah, 6 tahun, 5 tahun, 11 tahun. After that, college. Now there are two ways to get into medical school. One is government and one is private. So the government would be things like UKM, UPM, USM, and private would be Monash, IMU, Manipal University. Okay, so now to enter a public university, you have to take either matriculation, which is all the college matriculasi, and, or STPM or Form 6. That's for public universities. For private universities, you can join a college program, A levels, SAM, South Australian Matriculation, IB, or like Monash, they have their own foundation year, and that will take you to private university. And usually in medical school, you do about 5 years, 5 to 6 years, and after that you come out as a doctor and you do housemanship. Yeah. For myself, I went to Yochai Primary School, Catholic High School for secondary school, and then college matriculasi Negeri Sembilan, was in the small town of Kuala Pilah, and then University Malaya.
Okay. So once you are in the medical line, do you work only with hospitals, whether general or private, or are there other industries that a medical doctor can go into?
Oh, there are plenty actually. There are the atypical medical careers and the non-medical careers that a doctor can go into. Let's talk about the atypical medical careers. Now, after becoming a doctor and after finishing a housemanship, which is like an intern period of 2 years, and you decide you don't like people, you can be a radiologist, means you're looking at x-rays. That's it. You can be a pathologist, looking at the microscope. So that's not the usual medical doctor thing. You can be an army doctor and you're in the army. You can be aviation doctor and just treat pilots and stuff. Underwater medicine, divers only. Okay, that's medicine, but the non-usual kind. And there is a non-medical kind. You can join an insurance company and write insurance policies. You can join a pharmaceutical company, a drug company, and help to look at studies on drugs and stuff. Yeah, you can join a legal firm. In fact, I think. But there are actually a lot more out there than just being a medical doctor in the hospital.
Okay, so so in the career pathway of a doctor, where do you start and how far up can you go?
Okay, well, you have 5 years of medical school, and then you begin as a house officer, or otherwise known as Pegawai Perubatan Siswaza. That is 2 years. After that, you become a medical officer, and you will remain a medical officer until you take your specialist exams, or you enter a master's program. So if you don't take any exams, you remain as a medical officer until you quit medicine. You get salary increments, your grade increases, but basically you stay there. If you take specialist exams, you then become a specialist, and after about 5 years or a certain number of years, as a specialist, you become a consultant in the department. And I guess the final level is being a consultant in your field, or in that particular area that you specialize in.
Wow, okay, that's a long time to go up. Banyak tahun juga kena ambil untuk jadi untuk naikkan pangkat. Yeah, so throughout your whole journey, there must be a lot of challenges. So just on top of your mind and based on your career, berdasarkan masa anda dalam hospital kat Lahad Datu, what are the top 3 challenges? Apakah 3 cabaran paling mencabar sebagai seorang doktor?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is education and awareness among the public, and it's in many forms. It would be, some patients that come into hospital after not eating the medication. That's one of the biggest challenges I feel. And you have already advised them, okay, balik pakcik makan ubat hari-hari, ikut ni. And then 1 month later they come back, oh, lupa makan, or they don't want to take the medicine, or they've lost the medicine. Or they feel it's not important, ada ubat kampung, so they throw the medicine away. And they come in even worse. Masuk hospital lagi teruk daripada dulu. So that's one of the challenges. And another challenge would be the public in general. Sometimes their misconception of coming to the hospital, they think that kalau masuk hospital, keluar mesti baik, keluar mesti sembuh terus. They think it's magic. You know, you come to the hospital, the doctors do something, and you go back, you're completely well. And padahal, no, it's not that way. Because we can try our best, you know, and we give you whatever we can do. But sometimes it's really not under our control.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's I guess that's two of the biggest challenges at the workplace.
Okay. We have a question here from Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Marudi, and it sort of intertwines with my question. Are there specific subjects I have to excel in to be a doctor? So, you know, in SPM, for example, you know, what are the results that I have to be the best in order to be a doctor?
Okay. Well, yeah, I will answer my SPM result just later. Now,
Yeah.
you need to be in the science stream. That's one.
Science stream, huh?
Unless you do medicine in America, where you can do a bit of arts and do medicine as a postgraduate degree. Otherwise, you have to do science stream. That will be Form 4 or 5, aliran science. And you need to take chemistry and physics. Now, for some colleges, biology tidak wajib. Some certain colleges, tapi physics memang wajib. So you need to science and SPM. You need to get a certain number of A's depending on which college is going to accept you. Yeah, and then in college, I think you usually need to get all. For matriculation, what I did, you have to get 4.0. STPM is also 4.0, yes. But
Okay.
I took 13 subjects for SPM.
Wow.
An extra of Bible knowledge and accounts and Chinese. Well, Chinese was compulsory in my school. So I had 11 A1s and 2 Bs. But the Bs were for Chinese and English in Science and Technology, EST, which I don't think I should have gotten a B for, but anyway. Yep.
Okay, so for the benefits of the schools that are listening, jadi untuk sekolah-sekolah yang mendengar, kalau ada pelajar-pelajar yang ingin menjadi doktor, biologi, physics, semua subjek sains kena dapat A++ ya, kena belajar tekun sikit, ya, dan juga kena carilah college yang, universiti yang terbaik. So, you know, there is a interesting question from our guests. Apa pandangan doktor berkaitan penubuhan kelab doktor muda di sekolah menengah? So, the young club doktor muda in high schools. Are you aware of that?
I'm not actually. This is my first time seeing such a club, and it's quite amusing. It's good. It's good to in high school to expose the school kids to it.
Yeah.
But they should be attached, preferably to a hospital, and so that they can enter and see what a doctor's life is like, and see how they work. And of course, they must also be presented with the realities. You know, kena tahu lah realities seorang doktor. Bukan kerja, bukan bukan untuk duit semua tu lah. Memang tidak senang lah. Yeah. So if the young doctor club you do that in exposing them to the career, then it will be good. And just to give them an idea as to what it is. But of course, we should not only have young doctors. We should have young engineers, young lawyers, and other careers as well. And not an overemphasis on medical career.
Okay. Okay. So there's another question, which I think would be a question that students might ask in the future. Do you recommend if we go into private universities to study, or is there any good thing about going to a public university as well? Is there pros and cons between public and private universities, in your opinion?
Well, I think UM is the best because I graduated from UM. Anyway, you will do well, wherever you go. It really depends on the student. Yeah. And the thing about public universities is it costs about 2,000 a year for my degree. So it was about 10,000 ringgit for 5 years. That was
2,000 a year, 2,000 sebulan.
okay. No, 2,000 a year satu tahun.
Oh, 2,000, 2,000 a year, 2,000 setahun.
Untuk ijazah tu satu degree itu cuma 10,000. Kalau 10,000 itu cukup untuk mungkin 2 bulan atau 1 bulan kalau private. So you have to know that the cost in private is a lot more, much higher. And it doesn't mean it's better. It doesn't mean it's worse either. I think that it really depends on the student. If you do your best, you study hard, you will excel wherever you are. Of course, there's this thing about new medical schools and too many medical schools. So yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah, so you're from right? That's University Malaya.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, cool. So another question. How do you decide on what to specialize in? Is it necessary to decide it at a very preliminary stage, like when you just entered college, or can you decide it later on?
Well, I think I only decided during college. Yeah. Well, I became more and more sure as I entered university that this is what I wanted to do. In terms of specializing, you should take your time and do housemanship. You know, finish your 2 years and become a medical officer before you actually decide what you want to. Unless you are very sure from young, you know, I love kids. I want to be a pediatrician. I want to heal, you know, the sick kids. And yeah, fine. But most of the time, it's better to take your time, experience as much as you can before you actually decide on the specialty.
Okay. Okay. So perhaps you could share, you know, the type of specializations in a hospital, a typical, you know, sort of specializations, like roles that you find in the hospital that a doctor can take.
Okay. Well, there are 7 main departments in the hospital. The first one would be medical, which is things like lung infections, you know, heart attack, diabetes, hypertension. And the other one is the surgical department. Your appendix, doing appendectomies, removing cancers, and anything that involves surgery, mainly around the chest and the abdomen. The other one is obstetrics and gynecology, which is basically women, childbirth, labor, cervical cancer, you know, anything to do with the female reproduction system. That's obstetrics, O&G. Short, pediatrics, which is just children. There is orthopedics, which I'm in, which is bones and joints, fixing fractures. And there is emergency medicine and anesthesiology. Anesthesiology would be mainly in intensive care units and in operating theatres, keeping patients alive on ventilators. And emergency medicine is the frontliners. You know, when you go to hospital and you enter the emergency department, they are the first ones to see you, to come up with a diagnosis, to stabilize you, and then to refer to the other department.
Okay. Okay, so, you know, just a question. What is your advice to students whose ambition is to be a doctor, besides just studying hard? Is there anything else that they have to do as well?
Well, you need to have a heart for people. I think you may be shy, you may be noisy, you may be very outgoing, very introverted, you know, whatever it is, but you need to have a heart for people. If you don't have a heart for people, if you prefer working with machines or robots, then, you know, it's okay not to be a doctor. And if you want to be a doctor, you need to put other people's needs first before yours. That's very important, because if you're not willing to sacrifice and have a heart for people, then you should, you know, do something else. And there's no shame in that. Yeah. So the first thing, the most important thing is the heart.
The heart for people lah. So, yeah. So kepada murid-murid yang mendengar, kalau ingin jadi doktor, haruslah murid-murid juga haruslah ada hati untuk menjaga orang, untuk menyayangi orang. You know, bukan saja untuk wang. Jangan jadi doktor untuk wang sahaja. Okay, so just a general announcement kepada cikgu-cikgu yang berada dalam hangout ni, sila tanya soalan tentang kerjaya sahaja. sila jangan tanyakan soalan tentang penyakit atau apa-apa ya. So there is a question from SK Kampung Baru. A student just asked, are you nervous when you have to do a surgery?
Before I do a surgery, I'm actually more excited than nervous because I like surgery. I like cutting and fixing and sewing and cutting and drawing. And to me, if I'm not sure, and I've never done it before, I usually go in with a senior doctor or with a specialist for help, and you get guidance. Of course, there is the risk that something may happen. The patient may bleed, the patient can die, and that I suppose does make me a bit nervous. But yeah, it's part of the surgery. It's part of the fun.
Okay, so a very interesting question, yeah, and I think doctors get asked this a lot. How do you cope with the death of a patient? Bagaimanakah anda menangani situasi apabila seorang pesakit meninggal dunia?
Well, death happens to everyone, to me. And I'm a Christian, so I believe in God. I believe that people live and die for a reason. And I think that our perception of death needs to change. And if you come to the hospital and we are sick, you know, whatever age we are, but if we are sick and there's a terminal illness, something that cannot be cured, that means penyakit yang tidak boleh diubati, okay, cancer stage keempat, cancer sudah merebak pada paru-paru, pada jantung, pada otak. Okay, that's what is pain relief. The perawatan yang paling bagus untuk bagi patient itu selesa, untuk mengurangkan kesengsaraan dia. We want to reduce suffering because we know that he will not be able to be healed. So therefore, what we can offer is palliative care. And I think when we come to the idea of accepting death, that's something that will happen, then we can approach it with a more open mind. Of course, it's sad, you know. I mean, I feel sad when my patients are on their deathbed and they're going to die. But what I can do as a doctor is to help them die in a dignified way and not die, you know, with pain and suffering. At least they can die comfortably. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. There's a question from a guest. How many years does it take to become a doctor pakar, a specialized doctor?
Okay.
Depends,
well,
right?
yeah. Okay. You finish 5 years medical school. Now you work 2 years as a house officer, maybe another 2 years as a medical officer, and then you can join a master's program or you can study and take some exams yourself. Usually the taking exams master's program takes about another 4 years. So that's 5 plus 4, that's 9. Plus another 4, sorry, that's 13. Now that at about 13 to 14 years you become a specialist. So say you become pediatrician and you see young children. Now, if you want to become a subspecialist, you become a pediatric hemato-oncologist. So you see blood disorders and cancers. So you study maybe another 3 years. So that's 16 years maybe, and you become a subspecialist, sub-pakar. Tapi kalau pakar about 13 tahun lah, it's about that, and you have to still take exams and study.
Yep. 13 years. It's a long time, man.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so before we go live, we are going to open for a live Q&A session. But before that, we'll just ask one more question. From SMK Batu 10 Lekir, bagaimana doktor menangani stres sepanjang bergelar pelajar dahulu? So how did you handle the stress when you were a student? And you know, I will also mix it with this question. How do you handle your work-life balance currently with such long hours right now?
Okay. Well, as a student, sebagai pelajar, kita harus belajar keras. We need to play hard and work hard. Tapi kena main juga. Okay. You need to have co-curricular activities. I like to take pictures. I was into photography. I entered the student council. I love sports and outdoors as well. You go hiking, jungle trekking. I played squash. Yeah, and of course you go out for movies. You go to pasar malam. You hang out, mamak stall, supper, and you have to plan your time well and manage your time well. And I think time management is very important. In university, you plan your time between studying and playing. And when you start working, you plan your time between work and leisure. So after work, you maybe you come back, you cook dinner, you bake something, you go out, you meet friends, again sports maybe. If you're in Lahadatu, you can go diving in the weekends. Yeah. So you need to just manage your time well. I mean, everyone has 24 hours a day. Depends on what you make out of it.
Okay. Cool. All right. So another question from Kiara Mas. I'm not sure if you can answer this, but what are the qualifications needed to be a sport physician?
Sport physician?
Yeah. You know any qualifications that you need to be a sports physician?
Sports physician, there are two kinds. Okay, one is a sports physician, one is a sports surgeon. So if I have something wrong with my knee, can you see my knee? Okay, I can see a sports physician, and the physician will give you medical advice as to what to do. The sports surgeon can go in and cut, repair the ligaments, and help you fix the problem. Now, to become a physician, you need to do your MRCP or do a master's in medicine. So that's about 4 years after housemanship, and you become a physician. And then you can do another subspecialty in sports medicine, or you can join a master's program in sports medicine. As for sports surgeon, you usually do orthopedics, bones and joints, generally the whole body. That's 4 years, and then maybe another 2 to 3 years of just sport injuries and how to fix them. So there are 2 ways. Yep. In total, about 15 years as well, 13 years, about there.
Okay. All right. So there is another question from our guest. What is the difference between a medical assistant and a doctor?
A medical assistant is not a qualified doctor, but is basically, like the name says, an assistant of a medical doctor. And usually they are called, in other words, called paramedics. They work in the emergency department. They work in the orthopedics department. In fact, mainly in Malaysia, mainly the orthopedics and the emergency department have what they call MAs, or medical assistants. Yeah, you are not a qualified doctor. You do not prescribe medication, but you can do things like stitching. You can prescribe simple medicines in certain small clinics and hospitals in the rural areas. Medical assistants do that as well. Yeah.
All right. So I'll just ask one more question before we go live for the question and answers. This is from College Vocational Cebu. Kami ingin menanyakan soalan, bagaimana kalau kami tidak mengambil subjek aliran sains, adakah kami ada peluang untuk menjadi doktor? So if you are not from the science stream, can you still become a doctor?
I think in Malaysia it's a bit difficult. Agak susah di Malaysia kalau dari aliran yang sastra mau jadi seorang doktor, sebab memerlukan asas dalam bidang sains, dalam subjek sains, kimia, bio dan fizik. Untuk menjadi seorang doktor memang perlu unless you're in America, which is slightly different system that you may be able to, but in Malaysia it's a bit difficult.
Okay. So this is a question from Asunta. How do you overcome fear of blood if you want to become a surgeon?
Well, if you fear blood, you might not want to become a surgeon in the first place. And people that want to become a surgeon usually would not have a fear of blood. It's like if you fear spiders or if you fear dogs, you can become a vet. Usually not. But if you really want to overcome phobias, there are certain steps, and it's something called exposure response therapy and certain counseling sessions that you can do to overcome your fear. So that can be done. but it's unlikely that if you fear blood, you want to become a surgeon.
Okay. Okay, so the schools are asking this question a lot. So pelajar-pelajar sila ambil perhatian. How many A's do you need in your SPM result, to become a doctor? So I know you took 13 subjects, but what is the minimum amount of A's that you need to at least enter into, let's say, University Malaya or other universities?
Okay, SPM A's will get you into college. College A's get you into university. I had some friends with 7, 8 A's who still got into college. So it really depends, bergantung kepada kriteria kelayakan untuk kemasukan college itu. Kalau college terima 8A, 8A. Kalau 10A, 10A. Once you're in college, getting into university is another ball game altogether. But to me, do the subjects you can handle, get as many A's as you can. Dapatkan seberapa yang boleh. The idea in exams is to give your best. If you get 8 A's and it's not your best, that's not good. But if you get 8 A's and then it's your best, then that's good. Always give your best.
Okay. So untuk pelajar-pelajar semua, cara yang paling baik adalah untuk belajar lebih tekun, dapatkan seberapa banyak A yang mungkin, dan juga lakukan research atau selidik dalam mana-mana universiti atau college yang pelajar-pelajar ingin sertai bila habis sekolah. So we will open for a Q&A, for a live question and answer sessions. So we will start with SMK Ilopura. So SMK Ilopura, can you please approach the mic? SMK Ilopura, sila tampil ke hadapan mic dan tanyakan soalan anda. SMK Ilopura. Rafiq, is SMK Ilopura on? SMK Ilopura, sila unmute-kan mic anda sebab kami tak boleh dengar. Mic anda tidak dipasang. Cikgu, sila unmute-kan mic anda. Kat atas tu. Atas skrin. Okay, never mind. While SMK Ilopura is doing their technical problems, we will come back to SMK Ilopura later. Can we move on to SMK Seri Perak? SMK Seri Perak, sila tampil ke hadapan. Hai.
Apakah saya daripada SMK Perak.
Hai.
Nama saya Muhammad Bijamuddin. Apakah bidang dalam kedokteran yang masih kurang diceburi? Terima kasih.
Okay, boleh ulangi soalan tu?
Apakah bidang dalam kedokteran yang masih kurang diceburi?
Tak dengar, semua raka-raka awak tu tak boleh dengar. Ulang sekali lagi.
I heard it.
Apakah bidang dalam kedokteran yang masih kurang diceburi?
Yang kurang diceburi. So, apakah bidang doktor yang kurang diceburi sekarang?
Well, there are bidang-bidang fields such as
bidang kedokteran.
Boleh dengar?
Boleh.
Yeah, forensic pathology, emergency medicine. These two are still not very well developed here. Of course, things like transport medicine, aviation medicine, underwater are also kurang. Yeah.
So bidang forensik dan perubatan emergency yang bidang yang kurang diceburi sekarang. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Next one is Sultan Azlan Shah. Ya, sila tampil ke hadapan mic dan tanya soalan.
Benarkah pembedahan doktor mengalami kegagalan sehingga pesakit doktor tidak dapat diselamatkan?
Yeah, plenty of times. In fact, most of the time, kita buat sesuatu tapi tidak dapat selamatkan pesakit itu. Say for instance, kita buat sesuatu cuma untuk melegakan kesakitan sahaja. Memang berlaku banyak kali. Dan dia berlaku juga bila kita buat sesuatu untuk macam CPR. You know, you put your hands on the chest, tekan jantung, tekan setengah jam, patient masih tidak bangun. Jantung masih tidak boleh dihidupkan lagi. Jantung masih berhenti. So, adakah kamu mau cakap itu kegagalan atau itu satu takdir Tuhan? Itu pun it's difficult lah, susah mau cakap. Itu ajal ke bukan ajal. Tapi yang penting kita buat yang terbaik untuk pesakit. Faham tak? You understand me? Ya.
Sama-sama. Okay, terima kasih untuk soalan anda, SMK FrogAsia. Next one is terusnya SMK Sri Sadong. Sri Sadong sudah sampai hadapan. Ya.
My name is Nur Shazaniza from SMK Sri Sadong. I have two questions for doctor. The first question is how many hours that you need to be on call in a month? How many hours that you need to be on call in a month? The second question is, as a doctor, do you have your own personal time with your family or friends? Depending your busy schedule.
Kita buat sesuatu dengar. Kita buat sesuatu usually on call about 6 to 7 times a month. Setiap kali on call tengah malam lah. So that means 12 jam kali 7 100 jam bulan on call. Untuk masa dengan keluarga, masa dengan kawan memang ada. Memang untuk waktu lapang kita kena pandailah untuk bagi masa antara kerja dengan rehat. Dan memang ada masa untuk kawan, ada masa untuk keluarga. Tapi memang ada juga yang terpaksa kita cancel appointment, terpaksa kita mengorbankan sesi tengok wayang untuk kerja lah. Itu memang ada lah. Ya.
Okay. Next is, thank you for your question, SMK Sri Sadong. Next we have a question from Sekolah Menengah SMK Marudi. So SMK Marudi sila tampil ke hadapan dan tanya soalan anda. SMK Marudi. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Ya. Hello. Boleh dengar.
Okay, good morning. As a medical student, do you have time to have fun during your university life?
Yeah, have fun. Good question.
Do you have time
Can
to
you
have
repeat the
fun
question?
during your university life? As a medical student, do you have time to have fun during your university life?
I think the question was, as a medical student, do you have time to have fun in your personal life?
Yes, I had a lot of time to have fun. Plenty of time.
Okay, so what did you do? I think you mentioned that you went off hiking and all that as well.
Yeah, I did quite a lot of outdoor hikes. I played squash. We put up with some friends. We put up about 3 photography exhibitions. We joined the student council, made a lot of noise in campus with the elections and student politics.
Hmm.
And yeah, so we had a lot of fun.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I hope that answered your question, SMK Marudi. Okay,
Yes.
we want SMK Ilopura back. They have solved their tech issue. So SMK Ilopura, please come up front. Sila tampil ke hadapan SMK Ilopura. Where are you, SMK Ilopura? Okay, never mind. I don't think they are listening. Can we go on next? Move on next to SMK Asunta. SMK Asunta, you are up next. SMK Asunta, can you please come up to the mic? Sila tampil ke hadapan mic dan tanya soalan anda. Okay, we'll wait for SMK Asunta to solve their problems. College Vocational Sibu. College Vocational Sibu, sekarang giliran anda, sila tampil ke hadapan mic dan tanya soalan. Doctor, are you still with me?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, cool. I'm being told that there is a problem that apparently Asunta is speaking, but we can't hear them. So, yeah, we're trying to solve the problem now. Asunta, if you would like to ask your question into the group chat box, that will also be good. Because we cannot hear you. Oh, that's it, yeah. Okay, SMK Asunta is asking. Hello?
Okay, siapa yang ada soalan?
Is it easier? Do you mean easier as compared to where? Other countries?
In Malaysia.
Okay, sorry. Asunda's question. Is it easier to get a job in Malaysia as a medical specialist?
Yeah.
What do you mean by easier?
I guess, are there any probably challenges, or do you have to graduate with a recognized medical license?
A recognized uni, I see. So you are saying it is easier to become a specialist or doctor? Does it depend on the university you graduate from? No, it does not. To become a medical specialist, you just need to take the necessary specialist exams or enter a master's program. And this depends all on your results only. It does not depend on the university that you come from.
Okay. So yeah. So I hope that answers your question, SMK Asunta. Yes, thank you. Up next, we still have College Vocational Cebu. College Vocational Cebu? No? Okay. Can we get SMK Sri Sadong next? Thank you.
My name is Nofarahi binti Yeb. I am from SMK Sri Sadong.
Hi.
What is the basic salary of of houseman, doctor, and medical officer?
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi. Okay. Well, in Malaysia, house officers start with a basic pay of 2,700 ringgit. Plus the allowances, you get about 4,000 to 5,000. This is in the first year, and it may seem higher than other jobs, but as time passes, doesn't go up very much. Your increment is about 250 ringgit a year. So after about, but when you become a medical officer, it goes up a little bit more, maybe about 500 to 1,000. So you get about maybe 5,000 to 6,000, and then as the years go by, 6 to 7, 7 to 8. Yeah, this is of course in contrast with people in the private sector. If you're in the corporate world, and you can earn much more after 5 to 10 years of service. But like I said again, you're working not for the money, but because you have a heart for people. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. Okay. Yeah, there is another question. Branika doctor, do you dare to operate on your own parents? I'm sure there is a clause that says you can't operate on your loved ones.
Yeah. Actually, there's no clause, but you are encouraged not to, because it will make decision making difficult. Not just operating, but treating. Because if you treat someone for cancer or for any illness that is dangerous, and you know that you should not give this medicine because there is no hope for the patient. But if the patient is a loved one, you may go ahead and give it anyway. You may spend unwisely resources that we have because of your feelings for the person, and because maybe you are related to the person. So no, we are not encouraged to treat or to operate on your own relative or family member or even close friend. And if you want to, it should be done in discussion with other doctors.
Okay. There is another question from SMK Kiara Mas. How is your daily life schedule if you are on call? Is it non-existent?
If I'm on call, I work the office hours just now, as I mentioned, from 8 to 5 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then if I get calls, and it can be busy, if you have admissions from the emergency department calling for the orthopedic NO, then you have to keep going. Maybe 8 o'clock, see one case, 9, 10, 11 p.m. If an emergency comes in, you need to go to OT and operate, you have to go, and that can continue on until the next morning. It can be busy. Or you may not get any calls. Maybe that day no one had a fracture, no one fell down, no one got to any accidents, and everyone's bones are all safe. And then you may not get any call, and you get to rest and sleep, but you are on standby. Therefore, you have a dinner. It'd be difficult to do something where you can't hear your phone. Say you can't go swimming or you can't play badminton, because that means your phone is there. So you have to do something where you can hear your phone. You can read a book, you can go online, you can study, you can paint, you can play the piano. You can do other stuff. You can go out with your friends. Yeah, provided you are nearby the hospital and you can hear your phone.
Okay, cool. All right, so we are going off air very soon. So, College Vocational Cebu asked you what is the biggest challenge you face as a doctor, and I guess while you are answering that question, can you give an advice to all the students as well on becoming a doctor?
Okay. Well, I think as with any career, only do it if you really want to. Okay, and if there's anything inside you that is not sure or hesitant, don't do it. Okay, because people, you may say being a doctor you need to study, but in reality is whether you want to do it or not. Because if you really want something, the studying and the working hours come secondly. Okay, you must firstly have the passion there to do something. If you don't like dancing, you don't become a ballet dancer. Okay, if you don't like cooking, don't become a chef. And if you can't see yourself being a doctor and having that kind of life, seeing patients and maybe long working hours and be studying, you can be 30, 40 years old and still be studying. And if you don't like that kind of life, don't just become a doctor because, oh, I think it's magic, I'm going to heal people, or because my mom said so, because my dad said so, because I got all A's, I don't know what to do. Let's just do medicine. That is completely wrong. That's a misconception. Okay? And try other fields, be open to other things besides medicine, because being a doctor is not the best career. There's no such thing as a best career. Okay, the best career is the one that you like and the one that you're interested in, the one that you're willing to work hard for. But if you do choose medicine, then my advice to you is don't give up. Okay, medical school will be tough. Working life will maybe not be as tough, it depends, but you must not give up whatever happens. I mean, there's a whole lot more advice I can give you, but yeah, I think that for now, that's probably the best. Do something that your heart tells you to, and once you've decided it, then don't give up.
Okay. Okay, cool. I'm sorry to all the schools, but we have really reached the end of our session. If you have any other further questions, please type it in the group chat box. Dr. Timothy, there are a lot of questions there, very interesting questions as well. So if you please, you can answer them as well if your time permits.
In fact, I can do now if you don't mind.
Yeah, but we are already reaching the end of session. It's really too long already. So
okay,
yeah,
sure.
So we'll just go through that later on.
Okay.
So ending announcements. Do continue this discussion of discovering careers by creating and sharing your photos, videos, stories, or even interviews on social media channels using the hashtag FrogCC or hashtag FrogDoctor. Teachers, and students, thank you for joining us for this session. Please submit your feedback and your suggestions to us through the bit.ly/FCC reflection link, which will be posted on the group chat later on. Cikgu-cikgu dan pelajar-pelajar, terima kasih kerana sertai kita untuk hangout hari ini. Sila berikan cadangan atau maklum balas anda melalui link FCC/frog reflection link yang akan dipaparkan dalam chat box sebentar lagi. Thank you all. We are going off live. Bye.